Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of the MLS Fantasy Insider. Gene is here, so we will do the ceremonial.
Recording in progress.
Excellent. There we go. Well, this is a fun little episode for us tonight. It's as I mentioned last week when Tyler was here on the show. This is a strange round. Round 27 is strange because it spreads over 2 weeks, and that's simply because of World Cup qualifiers that are going on. And so we've got this unusual round where we have a week where games are coming up, but for most people, most of your stuff's going to be locked up. So we've switched it up, but we're still coming to you on this Monday evening live for the stream. So as usual, we'll start out getting the social out there. We've got it out there on Twitter Blue X Sky, and so that is up for everyone. Let me head over to Discord real quick just to throw this out there. People may have been, as Ashley was, and forgot a little bit that we did have something planned, easy to happen.
I still feel quite confident that we have never done this before.
We may not have. We may not have. That's why as I said this is something
Yeah.
kind of fun and special. Like I wanted to be like, yeah, this would be fun.
100%.
Keep
I'm
the
just
conversation
validating my
going.
own reason for forgetting.
No, that's totally fine. Plus, we get to talk about some additional Leagues Cup follow-ups, which I know you're gonna love. The little bit time to jump on the soapbox. All right, there we go. We've got information on Discord, information on social media. So if you would be so kind, if you are seeing that, please do retweet that and reshare that out there through your social media platforms of choice. What's going on, Eric? Good to see you. And if this is the first time you're joining us here on YouTube, then welcome to our live stream. We come to you live pretty much every Monday and bring you just tips and tricks and just fun information, fun chat about the MLS Fantasy, official MLS Fantasy game. And we're going to be doing that here with you again. So there's the rundown. So with all that being said, the caps lock is all messed up. We will go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of Round 27, Part 2. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I butchered the intro, and so I'm going to do it again because
that's why we do it.
I know. I don't know what happened.
That's why we do it.
That's why we did it. I don't know. It was right there, and just blah, 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 blah. Drink, try it again. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of Round 27, Part 2 of the 2025 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by the Ban Hammer. It's not always as big as we think it's going to be, but it does happen. Brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Find out more over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. We'd also like to welcome tonight's special guest, Gavin Harris, aka MLS Fantasy Picks, on social media, on YouTube, on TikTok, all that good stuff. How you doing tonight, Gavin?
Great. How's it going, everybody?
Doing well.
Welcome, Gavin.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back. So, this is a fun episode as we were discussing with our live stream audience in Discord. Sorry, on YouTube. We were testing on YouTube that this is different. Ashley called me out like, "What do you mean we're doing a podcast tonight? This is a double game week." Yeah, I know, but it's a weird one because it stretches out over 2 weeks because we have World Cup qualifiers, and yes, sometimes usually in the past, we probably haven't done an episode, but I thought it would be fun this week because when Tyler joined us last week, we mentioned a couple of times how there were probably definitely some single game week options that would inevitably sneak into the top scores, or there might be some times where you maybe wanted to have a single game week player to help activate an Aru. I know I mentioned New England was a team where you could easily preview all the points this round, and single game week players are going to help you do that. Now, as we'll talk about tonight, didn't have to be your strategy for how you approached this. But for those of you who maybe embraced that, left some room for some single game week players, or we'll be honest, we get it. We understand life gets up there. Maybe you forgot about the deadline or what was going on and have a few extra single game week players in your team than you would have ideally planned to have had in your team. We're going to focus tonight only talking about single game week players for who you can maybe sprinkle into your team for some of those options if you are not happy with the players who were on your bench or your double game week options that you're waiting to preview for New England. But first, as we began last week when Tyler was here, who got to be there live to see the Miami-Seattle game, Ashley was also there to preview the Seattle-Miami, I think it's in Nashville for some reason just a second ago, the Seattle-Miami game, and got to see the brawl that happened at the end. Very, very just disappointed that something like that would happen. However, last week we talked about the potential impacts for round 27 of any kind of disciplinary actions that may come down from that. And not surprising, we did not hear anything last week simply because Miami...
It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. Miami wasn't playing that weekend. They're playing this time. If anything wanted to happen to Seattle, I mean, we had talked a little bit about mass confrontation, if anything like that might happen. Both teams are playing this week, so there was no need to do anything last week. Well, information has come out, and Suarez is the sole recipient of all the bans, for good, better, or worse. I'll let Ashley get into that in a second. But for those who may not have heard it, for Leagues Cup play, which this just sort of seems like, okay, that's fine. 6-game ban, only for the Leagues Cup competition for however much longer he may even be involved in something like that. Then more importantly,
up the end of this year.
Right. Then more importantly, for MLS, he is missing the next 3 games for Miami, including the game they have this weekend, including the rematch with Seattle that they have after that, and then they're playing DC, which whatever, they're already out, so it's all fine in there. So there is some impacts there. Ashley, I'll turn the floor over to you, and then Gavin, please feel free to jump in since Ashley and Ranch last week were able to share their thoughts about everything going on. So Ashley.
Yeah, at first I knew it would roll over to MLS. I think some people were skeptical because of who he is. And I just chose to assume the best and hope that, historically, when players have been suspended from other tournaments, Open Cup is the best example. That has rolled over to MLS in some way. I was pretty disappointed in the amount of games at first, and then I went back and did some digging. And there was a game in Seattle. We referenced it as the red card wedding game, and it was Sounders versus Portland in Open Cup. And Clint Dempsey got a red card and got so frustrated. There were a myriad of other disgruntling things going on, but in the mix of his red card melee, he grabbed the referee's notebook and tore it up. And I believe he received like a 12, he never played an Open Cup again. It was like a absurdly high number. But for MLS, he only received a 3-game ban. And it is because it's the referee's property. It's technically like, however that's worded, like putting hands on officials or whatever that is. So that by comparison, I guess it depends on how you view those situations of ripping up a referee's notebook or spitting on a 72-year-old man. They were the same MLS ban. And so that actually kind of made me think okay about the amount of games he's suspended. I think it will have some implications for Miami and for fantasy to not have him in there. There isn't really a direct Suarez replacement. I mean, there's guys that can fill that position, but Suarez and Alba have so much chemistry on that left side. Obviously, Suarez and Messi have so much chemistry. I refuse to believe that anyone missing would discount Messi's fantasy production. I don't think that that's the case, but the DC game, especially, that's a game I think some of us would have doubled up, right? For fantasy, and that's not an option. From a non-fantasy perspective, I've never seen anything like that. we were in I was a very proud moment. My son wanted to sit in our supporters section. He's never sat there before. He's 8.5. And for the final, that's where he wanted to sit. So we got to sit and cheer and chant and wave flags. And he was very, very into it. And that was a really cool thing for me to share as a soccer fan. And then we had kind of moved over to watch the trophy presentation, and we got to see that fight pretty clearly, and then obviously consumed all the videos like I think a lot of people did. I was surprised to not see Sergio Busquets get suspended. He received a Leagues Cup suspension and just absolutely punched someone clearly in the face. And then I was also pretty surprised to not see suspensions for Avila's in MLS at all. Now, again, those aren't two players that impact any of our fantasies. Busquets a little bit maybe from a defensive perspective, but none of us are picking up Miami defense. So again, just kind of irrelevant. But I would just love to share, Reid, this is my last moment of soapboxing, just to be on it. These are the previous suspensions for Luis Suarez for inappropriate game actions. In 2010, so 15 years ago, was the first bite, 7-game ban. Then there was racial abuse of Patrice Evra in a game in 2011, 8-match ban. Then there was another biting incident, 2013, 10-match ban. And then in 2014, we had the Chiellini biting incident. It was a 9-match international ban, and he was suspended for 4 months across all soccer, across anything. So now, I mean, he went 11 years, between bans. So growth, maybe. I just think to spit on someone, Taylor Twellman is not someone I often agree with, but I think he said it best on a little podcast he does with Rebecca Lowe. It's called Soccer, where he said, "Punch me in the face all you want. You spit on me. Here we go." Because I just think it's a disgusting thing. It's just different. Biting is also weird. That was always weird. Don't think anybody thought it wasn't. Such a weird thing to do 3 different times as a player, as a soccer player. Spitting's just disgusting, and he held that man's foot down with his cleat. It was visibly old man. I just can't, I don't know. I guess it means Leagues Cup matters, which is something we've continued to say it doesn't, because if you're going to get that upset, it's just, I don't know. It was wild. I think MLS did okay. I would have liked to see a bigger ban, but I just think he's gross. So I think I'm a little jaded. But like I said, if I compared it to the Dempsey situation, it made me a little less mad at MLS. But I was disappointed not to see any other suspensions. And I don't know. It's just such a sad way to be represented,
Yeah, for sure. Gavin, what about you?
Yeah, not too much else to add from Ashley's points. I wasn't following the Leeds Cup too much since Philly was out of it. But of course, I watched the highlights the next morning. Great to see the Sounders get the victory over Miami, though it was overshadowed by this fight at the end. Seeing that. So a bit unfortunate, I agree. It doesn't make the league look very good. It doesn't make Suarez look good as well, obviously. But yeah, I also didn't have that background about Dempsey's ban from the 12th game to the 3 game for this season. So I agree. I guess that makes a bit more sense. I was expecting a bit more than just the 3 matches. But yeah, and then from a fantasy standpoint, I agree. I don't see it impacting Messi, who is who we look at from a fantasy perspective. I guess we won't go for the double ups now for Messi and Suarez. But yeah, I think it doesn't really change too much from a fantasy perspective for us.
Yeah, I'll agree with everything you said too, Ashley, as well. I think if you do approach it from the point of view of if MLS wants to kind of have a consistent approach for if it is a other organized tournament, we'll tack on 3 days kind of approach, because essentially they're saying, oh, that's 9, but we all know that just the way Leagues Cup work, if you qualify, if you're still here, yada yada yada, it's just kind of a throwaway competition. But if they were taking the approach of we will add three more on top of whatever something else does.
Yeah.
I can agree that would be consistent. Sounds like it is consistent. I think knowing that where his contract's at, where his what's left of his career, and what's that at minimum, I think having, and they've not punched their ticket yet into the cup, but I would think at minimum the rest of this regular season would have been appropriate from an MLS point of view. And then if you get to the end, you're in the tournament, so there you go. But for the rest of this season, no. Because I do agree about that some of this is kind of, what do you want to represent as the league, as U.S. Soccer? And I know that may not be as consumed as much as someplace like the Premier League or Bundesliga or some other places like that, but it's our league and sort of the standard that we want to set. And I agree, it's disgusting. It has no place. I think there could have been more that was handed out to more players. I would even have not have been, as we mentioned before, mass confrontation, if there had been some repercussions for some of the Sounders too, just kind of going around being like, listen, this everyone contributed. Like, I would not have batted an eye at that. So it is what it is. But as you guys have both pointed out, what we're focused on, the fantasy impact of that is those three games. The two biggest ones, I think, clearly were going to be the Seattle rematch. And maybe more point lucrative would have likely been that DC match with DC already being eliminated. So definitely some fantasy impact there. But I will also echo that I agree. I don't think it impacts Messi points with him not being there. But but wanted to definitely touch upon that just to make sure everyone knows what's coming up, because Miami is a single game week team, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight on the show. Maybe a little bit shorter than we usually have, but I wanted to cover this Leagues Cup first, because in our next segment, we're going to be talking about the single game week players that are available to fill in your team. If you need one, if you forgot, if you planned, or whatever, we're going to be talking about that coming up next, right after this. Pupperoo, you are not being good.
Well, she wants your attention.
She does, and she's doing it by scratching at my arm.
No, that's called pawing. That's what it's called when you have dogs, Reid. It's a paw. She just wants to say hello.
She does. You had mentioned Sawyer wanting to be in the fan section, so
so great.
This was the first. I think I told you this. The game that we went to, the Cincinnati game, was the first time Landon actually kind of like got into the game, and he like lifted up his shirt and yelled about Evander and things like that. Well, Saturday, Sunday, Mandy comes up to me and she says, "Did you hear Landon this morning?" And I said, "No, I was already up. What did he do?" And she said, "I think he was dreaming about the game." And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Because in his sleep he was going, FCC, FCC."
Oh, what a dream!
He was chanting. And then at our soccer game yesterday, I heard him with one of the little boys off to the side as they were getting warmed up to play U6. So I mean, nothing. He was going say F FC FCC. He was like teaching them to chant.
Trying to teach the kid.
Yes. And they're not orange. They're not. No. They're light blue. It's nothing. He's just teaching the kid FCC. So I was like, oh yes, this has worked. Excellent.
Very briefly, I had a less adorable but still adorable to me situation where we told Sawyer, "Hey, we're pretty like not no swear household. I mean, he knows what it is, and we've had conversations, but we watch a lot of sports, which is just impossible to not swear in front of him. We have not been able to make that happen, and so we told him before we sat in the section, like, hey, you might hear some stuff, and we'll explain anything to you. You don't repeat it, but you might hear these things." And then Spencer decided to tell him that for the 90 minutes, he could swear as long as it wasn't mean towards like the other team or anything like that. Like if you whatever, let loose, my guy. And like a boy after my own heart, I don't remember, they like miscalled something or didn't call something, and everyone was like, right, referee. And Sawyer goes, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!" And just like he had no idea what the like egregiousness was. he could just tell everyone else was mad at the referee. And that's what he chose. He didn't swear again the whole rest of the game. He was just like
That's
with his hand up, just already mad at referees. It made me really happy.
that is funny. That is funny.
Oh,
All right.
could
Well,
you
thank you
imagine
everyone
if
for
an
listening.
8-year-old yelled at that. Could you imagine if you heard an 8-year-old yell that?
That would
I
be
just
funny.
can't. Sorry.
That would be funny. Like, in that context, it'd be fine. Well, thank you everyone for listening to us do that. Social is out for second part of our show. These are things, Gavin, you can look forward to with your little one in the coming years. So fun times.
Yeah.
Fun times. All right, here we go.
Kevin's like, no, my child will not.
I didn't say to swear, just like going to games. Come on.
Sure, sure.
All right, welcome back to our part 2 of our double game week round 27 coverage. We're talking about the single game week teams this round, and so let me give you a very quick housekeeping update about this. Of course, the round started last Saturday, so this is we're well into it. You can see the scores that are there right now, but we do have a lot of games that are playing on Saturday, September 13th. And it starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is your typical Apple TV lineup that we're seeing here with all the times. Now, this is where the single game week teams come into play. So we've got Charlotte and Miami and Cincinnati National. A lot of single game week team lineups with our double game weeks sprinkled throughout the lineup. Now, remember, the only team that was on a double home was Chicago. So everybody else is moved around and shuffled through everything here, but I just want to make sure everyone knows the games do kick back off on Saturday. So if you need a single game week player, make sure you have that set up by then, or that you have an Aru set up if you like a double game week player who's on your bench. Make sure those are configured by Saturday to get that started. Other than that, everything that's going on is because of World Cup qualifiers. Please do pay attention to those games, see how the players perform, see if there's any injuries during those games. I know there's a few players that I think there for a hot minute people were worried about Sonny that during the U.S. game. I just saw some stuff.
Just fine.
I just saw some stuff on Twitter. People were like, "Oh no, his leg! What's going on?" Like for a hot minute, like this you got to pay attention to this stuff. These things happen throughout this time. So, but that's what's going on. And so be sure to check all of that stuff out. And if you have any questions, just head over to Discord. They've got lots of great community, great questions and answers. And you've got the Mega Reference, which has some of these safe scrubs or things like that if you need them. All right, Gavin, Ashley, we're here to talk about single game week players, because when Travis and I did the show last week, we were, or Travis, Lord, I don't know what year am I in with all this life. Gone back to year
Hard
one.
to say.
Gone back to year one, talking about Travis. When Tyler and I were here last week, we were talking about how you could set up your team, some configurations, preview some points, but also you might want to leave some room for some single game week players. And so what I've got you guys here for tonight, and those of you in chat, please feel free to let me know what kind of single game week players you were looking for. We're going to go through the positions. Doesn't have to be as long or lengthy here, but if you did have some single game week player options here for yourself, for your teams, or for somebody else, who might you be tempted to if you were trying to fill that spot? So let's start out with keepers and defenders. And Ashley, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, definitely having a single game week keeper made sense. And if you did that, good for you, because none of the double game week keepers had a shutout. Doesn't mean they won't. They have a fresh slate, just like every other single game week keeper. But going into this upcoming weekend, which is part of the previous round, I hate when they do this, no clean sheets. So I think I am hopeful, because I decided to do a double. I did that Austin back end just to wait and see. And so Austin, away to FC Dallas doesn't inspire much hope for me. I just don't like a rivalry, and that's still a rivalry game. So of the non-double game week teams left to play, there's not a ton, at least of home teams, that scream shutout to me. I think Seattle with Fry, or Seattle Defenders, is a decent shout. LA has been scoring a little bit better. Their team Seattle just shut out on the road in Leagues Cup with all of their players to play. I'm unsure at the moment, and reader Gavin, maybe you know better, but I'm unsure at the moment if Payne Still and those other players will be back for the weekend, but they were away last weekend for qualifiers. And then I also think it's weird to say this because they're never consistent, but I do think that Portland could be a decent defensive and keeper shout. Or even Vancouver because of the travel, right? The not in any way to pick on Philly, but Vancouver has been a relatively good defensive lineup. They've been getting a lot of guys back whenever people have to travel, especially Eastern Conference teams. I mean, have to travel all the way there. Home games for them tend to be a better defensive and offensive production, but Philly has been clicking really well too. So it's hard to say, but right now, keeper and defenders, I did not leave room to slot in. I wanted 2 bites, as they say. I thought there were decent shutout chances, at least on one end, for all these teams. Now some of those didn't happen on the one end that I thought they would, but right now I don't ask for anyone else. But those are the teams that I would, if I did have space, at least be paying attention to.
Gavin, what about yourself?
Definitely. And yeah, full disclosure, I have no single game week players on my team currently. Happy to say
Gavin just wanted to
my
hang
forward.
out. He just wanted to hang out and talk with us.
Yeah, exactly. Why not talk about MLS fantasy? It's always a good time. But yeah, so like all my middies and forwards hit, which is great, and defense and keeper is obviously where we struggled. As Ashley said, no clean sheets for that first round of games. So looking at those single game week teams, I agree with Ashley. I feel like Seattle is a good look. And then to your point for the Galaxy, like their squad looked very rotated against Houston. So yeah, I don't know how many guys are going to be back for this game. Check out lineups, see how it's looking for Seattle. Also, I agree with the Portland shout just because the Red Bull kind of struggle away. I would also say San Diego is an all right look. They've been pretty good defensively. I'm a big fan of McVay, their keeper as well. Yeah, I haven't seen Minnesota too hot on the offense recently. I think they lost a few players, transferred out as well.
Wallace,
Yeah, so I mean, those are the guys that I will look at. But my defense right now are just all those attacking upside players like Shaq Moore, Gutman, Feingold, all sitting at 1 or 2 points. So hoping for some points in this next round of games. But yeah, I did not go the single game route for keepers and defenders this week.
And I'll add the full disclosure is Gavin knew what we were doing before we came onto the show. So like this isn't like surprise brought him on and he's like, oh no, I did like he knew what the assignment was and he built his which is totally fine. Like I said, this is what's there. So this is everyone just giving their thoughts. I did build my team. Go for it. Sorry.
Rita, I would just add, I guess the reason, just to give a bit of background on why I did that, the teams that did have the double games are kind of those flyer crazy teams like your St. Louis could pop off. Austin, we saw what happened with Owen Wolf here. So I just saw it as a fun chance to throw a lot of random guys on my bench. My bench right now is Bamba, Klaus, and Musa. Guys I normally don't go for, but just because these are sort of like our wild teams, like those Chicagos as well, it would be a fun, chance to see if these guys actually hit. And it did work out offensively, at least. So my reasoning for this week.
No, and that makes total sense. So I did set up my team with single game week players in mind. And this is why. Because Ashley just mentioned that she wanted 2 bites at the apple. I wanted 3 bites at the apple this week. And that's, as I mentioned, was only possible if you took New England. And so I had Feingold and Turner on my bench with the idea going into it that I was not super hopeful of a clean sheet in this first round last week. I didn't think they'd keep a clean sheet, but that I'd liked the possibility of New England keeping a clean sheet at home to Toronto. I thought that maybe had a bit more of a chance to it. And with their lineup, New England plays at 7:30, and so by 9:30 ish, we all know start times 9:30 ish. That game would be over, which is still going to give me Portland and San Diego as options for bringing in a single game week keeper, or potentially how things go if there's an early goal or something. Then I can look at some of these 9:30 games as well as potential options for bringing in a keeper. So that is how I am set up the team. So I left a single game week defender spot open, only put 3 in the back, and I put in a single game week keeper just as a placeholder right there so that I can see what happens with Matt Turner and Feingold. So getting those 3 bites at the apple to see what it is. Otherwise, we've like Ashley was saying, you start with one player, see how they do. I have Austin that's right there. Well, that team didn't get it, so I got to pivot to my double game week guy, and now you're locked in. You get that one preview.
Yep.
I just want those extra shots. We don't get to do it all the time. I felt like it pretty good chance, and as we saw, no one had clean sheets in this first round. So I feel like overall, if Turner gets another good game, it may not be that much different than some of the other double guys at the end of the day. So that's what I've set up. As far as the teams, I think you're right that Fry probably is looking like the best option. For me, that's not going to work because 8:30 is just far too close. I guess technically if Toronto did have a super early goal, but normally I would say that an 8:30 Aru pivot from a 7:30 game is likely too early to really be effective unless your plans crash out. But I think he is probably the best if you're just going to roll with one player. So for me, I'm really looking at those 9:30 and 10:30 games. For the 10:30 games, it's San Diego. I mean, we've gone back to their team so many times. I think you're right, Gavin, with that one. That's been one that we looked at so much. I'd be tempted by Vancouver. I agree with what you said, Ashley. The travel to Vancouver can just be vicious. They've been doing well, but I did get to see, and Gavin's right here. I did get to see Philly play in Cincinnati, and they brought a lot of heat and a lot of just high pressure, and it worked. Vancouver's a different team, and so whole different setup. So I could see you looking at Vancouver as some options if that's what you wanted to do, but I do think that San Diego is the standout option for the single game week keeper that you want to roll with. I'm intrigued by your Portland call out, Ashley, because we have talked about how Red Bull's not always been firing on all cylinders for us right here. But yeah, that's who I'd be looking at. I mean, we know RSL and Sporting Kansas City, they've got history, some right there, and we've seen Kansas City score, but we also saw them just get a couple dropped on them by Austin. So not a solid block there. Houston and Colorado, opportunities on both sides right there as well. So just not as many, I think, in that late block for me. But that's what I'm looking at. That's where I think if you've messed up your keeper, if you're looking for the option, I'm really looking at Seattle's great if you want to go for there, or San Diego would be the top 2 that I would go with. Defense, it's the same. For me, it's not gonna matter. I'm locked in to my defender spot right here. I had Feingold on the bench. They went ahead and threw a flyer with Miller. He was playing out of position. LA, just kind of seeing what would happen. Mostly, I'm just hoping that Feingold's going to hit for me to come in right there. If he doesn't hit, then I'm in the same boat. I'm going to probably look for McVay. Is what I'm looking at. So not much different, but I'm really hoping to get one of the double game week defenders at least to have something happen, some bonus points or some more offensive setup. Because of how I've set up my team, though, with 3 defenders, I'm going to have to scrub my midfielder to get my points off the bench that I want for Kuipers. So that's maybe a little bit unfortunate because we'll talk about that in a second. But I'm having to bring those points in, and just with the setup, I liked all of the forward options this week that I wanted to go with Jovelit, Klaus, and Kuipers. And so I was happy to just kind of have that be a pivot and just run with 3 defenders and sacrifice a midfielder for what I hope are some good points. Going to chat real quick. Yeah, Eric mentions Dos Santos, Dreyer over there. We're getting into those midfielders, so we'll talk about that in just a second. Yeah, San Diego center backs, tons of bonus points, absolutely. Let's see here. Going through people are looking at the same thing. Gene liked the matchups for St. Louis this round. It's a good thing you got there. Oh, we've got right here, Ashley, Ray says he's got a Portland goalkeeper and 2 defenders ready to scrub/play as needed. 2 is a lot. 2 is a lot.
That's 3 then.
But that go bought into the back line for sure.
Okay.
But I could
worked out
see
so well for them so often.
I could see why you would
The
go
triple
with
is bold.
with two single game week keepers. It was like you were saying, Gavin. There's a lot of weird teams, a lot of matchups here that just didn't look super enticing for defenders. But that's I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Talking about midfielders, definitely a few little options here as well. So, Gavin, why don't you kick us off with this one?
Yeah, midfielders. I split them up between home and away this week. I mean, a lot of times away players have actually looked quite good. So home guys that I like this week would be Evander against Nashville. Of course, can't go wrong. As well, Dryer against Minnesota. So if you do want to look at those away players, I've been a huge fan of Ojeda just because it's a great matchup against DC. I don't think DC has much to fight for anymore. I think they've been eliminated from the playoffs. And then, of course, Hani against Cincy. So since it is a double game week and you're looking at probably just a few of those midfielders, you want to look at the top guys that are available. And I feel like those are, the proven top midfielders that we've seen. If I had to pick one out of those 4, it'd probably be Evander just because of, his bonus point potential as well as goal contributions. And they're at home against Nashville. But definitely, I'd be happy picking any of those guys on my team if I was looking for a single game week.
Ashley.
I don't have much different names to offer, but I do have different inclinations, I suppose, than Gavin. I agree with the names you said. I think the single game week middies that jump out to me are Ojeda and Dryer and Mukhtar and Evander, which is complicated because Mukhtar and Evander are in the same matchup. But I did intentionally leave one midfield spot open for a single game week player, as I mentioned off air, which I will own on air. When the first day of games was over, I wanted to bring in my 6 points for Klaus, I believe it was, as well as my 8 for Kuipers, because I believed they both would do well enough in the next game to bring in. And I was debating, do I scrub my single game week mini, which is a spot I left on purpose, or do I scrub Owen Wolf? And I really did go back and forth about it. It wasn't like just a quick decision, but I definitely made the wrong decision because I did scrub Owen Wolf, and I would trade any single game week midi at this point to get those points back, but it can't, and that's how the game goes. But for me, the 2 middies that I lean towards the most are Dryer and Ojeda. I have loved Martin Ojeda. I think he has played so well. I think he is an underrated MVP candidate in the league this year, and his point production for fantasy just can't, you kind of can't top it. I don't know where he is as far as total points with other middies, but he's a player that I think has just done so well. And like you said, playing that defeated DC team, even though it is on the road, it's almost to the benefit because, there's just not a lot that's going to be left there. There's a lot of season left to already be out. And that tells me that this is a team that can probably get walked on pretty well by the likes of Ojeda. So Ojeda and Dryers were the first ones for me. Like, you said Minnesota, now they are 3rd in the Western Conference. But from a fantasy perspective, there just hasn't been a lot recently, especially not defensively and on the road, right? On the road, even less so. So Dryers has been a little less consistent, I would say, than Ojeda has, but he has the home matchup. So I currently have Dryers on my team, but Ojeda just continues to call to me in the back of my mind. So, it could end up going either way. But I, like we were just kind of talking about, I did leave space for a single. I did like some of those single game week matchups. I wasn't, sometimes you fill a roster with DGWs just because it's DGWs, but this was one of those weird DGW weeks where, some teams had people missing, some teams didn't. There were hardly any games, and so I just opted to leave that spot, assuming I would scrub it. And I don't know why I went against my own assumptions and scrubbed a DGW player, but alas, I still have time to play someone else. So,
That's the funny thing too, as well. I think like because I loaded my team with DGWs and I had Marco Royce in. I think where I had ended up
mhm.
putting Wolf. So I saw he. I don't even think he was on the bench
No, he wasn't.
against Houston.
Yeah, I did too.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I put in Wolf just because I saw he had some goal contributions
Yep.
contributions
Yeah.
in his past matches, and luckily enough, he finished with the 13. But yeah,
Yeah.
bit of a flyer there.
Yep,
Sure.
that is the same. I had the same thing. I was just like, okay, we'll go with that.
I had him in my team the whole time,
Oh
but
man,
he was the one I felt the
yeah.
least confident in. And he played on Sunday, right? So it was just like, well,
Yep.
and I think I
anyways.
had gone with that too because Ustari was also out with his national team, and so that was I figured
Mhm.
some of the shifting.
Mhm.
Of that. But yeah, no, everything's there. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to this. I mean, well, I guess the one player I would add is a little bit of some question with Ashley's. Didn't Rusnak played in the Leagues Cup game? Did he?
He was on the bench.
Okay,
If he got subbed in late, I didn't notice. We were already celebrating.
it was there.
So I apologize. But don't do that. He's just coming back from injury.
No. I'm not. I'm not doing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask that question. I mean, I had Dreyer on my team. He was the player that
Yeah.
I had tapped
Okay.
to go in there. I
Okay.
mean, we know that Biel's he's not back from his injury yet. That would have been one that
Yeah.
would have been interesting for me.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, you guys are right with Evander and Mukhtar. I probably would go Mukhtar over Evander just with the whole slump of everything going on. I mean, there's going to be there's a lot going on there. So like, is this going to be a
Sure.
fourth home game with no goals? Like,
Yeah.
is this what's going to happen? What's going to come up through there? But Nashville's just been hitting on so many things right now that I could definitely see
Yeah.
Mukhtar being one that you'd want to go with. But I don't know if either of them are better than Ojeda. Again, for me, this is not really much of anything because I just had Dreyer in there. Was going to think of the options. He and Ojeda were my top two, but since I want to have Kuipers come in, it's a moot point. I'm going to scrub them out for someone who's not playing, so I can get the 8 points from Kuipers, which is to me definitely going to be competitive for any kind of score that a single game week midfielder is likely going to put up. I mean, we saw Lowen put up 11 in the last round. He's got another good game coming up this week. I mean, Wolf got the 13, and you said those are definitely above average, which you would say. I mean, kind of hitting in that 8-9 is sort of where you would hope that like a good midfielder is going to hit you with a single game week, if not more. And so Kuiper's already coming in with an 8. I'm like, that's no problem. So, but no, all of those guys are the ones I'd be looking at. But of course, the biggest thing about Ojeda is, as you said, DC being out. DC and Montreal both out, which is why, again, I think if you didn't have Lowen last week, that was a big pro for him. Not seeing anybody in that San Jose LAFC game that I really want to go through with the midfield. Same thing going down there. Colorado doesn't have those options. RSL doesn't have any of the options. You could potentially start talking about maybe somebody with Vancouver, but again, I just don't think anyone's catching up to Ojeda and then Dreyer as 1 and 2 for those options. So if you're looking for those people, I know we had Eric who was talking about some people over there in Portland, but I think those are definitely your two options you're looking at. With hope you don't have more than one spot. I mean, I think this was definitely a position where you had plenty of double game week midfielders that you could have picked from, where you would have had at least one available to have this pivot. So with hope you didn't have too many if you need them, but if not, definitely a few little teams you can look through here to try to find those options. Okay, now this one may be harder. I'll own up. I did not have a single game week forward, so I'm interested for you guys. Who would you have looked at if you were looking for a single game week forward option? Ashley.
I mean, Danny Musovsky?
No,
that's
fair.
a homer choice. I mean, I honestly can't really give you one. I think Messi. Charlotte's home defense is good though, and so Messi is Messi. That's kind of the conversation you have every week, right? Well, this team's not bad, but Messi is Messi. So, do you? And I think he seems like a player. He was with the national team. That was emotional. He lost a final with Grace. That was emotional. So by all accounts, he could come in if he's back. And again, I do apologize because I don't know what other games Argentina had. But I don't see why he wouldn't play. And I think, it's a team he could do well against. But like you said, it wasn't worth, saving a spot from a double game week player. I think you could also definitely look at Bawanga or Sunny at San Jose. San Jose, not your best defensive play. It is a road game, but it's a California game. I would anticipate goals from LAFC in that. I was half joking about Danny Musovsky, but also this guy just keeps doing well, so I hope someone will buy him from us. And then lastly, I suppose it's worth mentioning Chucky as well, right, for San Diego. If your Jars is in a different league as far as I'm considering it, but Chucky, scored recently, and I think Minnesota's defense it leaves that vulnerable for him. But again, he's not a player that I would have picked over the doubles. So yeah, that's kind of it for me.
Gavin.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. To Ashley's point, if you are thinking about a single that would overtake a double, it would be Messi because he's Messi. But if you aren't looking at him due to the, if he's not playing due to the national team games, I was just looking through those teams that are on the single. Like Columbus, Rossi has not really impressed me much this year. He's very goal dependent.
Yep.
Seems pretty boomer bust. And then as well to Ashley's point around Son, I feel like he's just coming to the league very naturally. Like I feel like a lot of players take a while. He's just sort of stepped on and just impressed from a fantasy perspective as well, which is great to see. So yeah, even though he is eating into Belanga's production, that's just very fun to watch and definitely someone that I would look at. And then someone that I like to give shout outs to, but when I pick him, he gets me a 2, would be Navarro over at Colorado.
Yes.
I was looking at his history. He's putting up goals, assists, all this stuff. I was like, oh, Mihailovic left, so he's the new creator. So I picked him up, and then he got me a 2. So I have not looked back, and ever since then, he's been doing well. So I feel like he's a decent shout. But yeah, those are the guys that I would be looking at.
We all have one. Don't worry. We all have one.
Mine was Jesus Ferreira, and then the Sounders signed him, so I haven't picked him up all year because I wanted him to do well.
Mine is well documented. So
yeah,
it's all great. Yeah, Son for me is the head and shoulders above anybody else. If you didn't pick 3 DGW forwards, then I think even on the road, San Jose has had those opportunities, and so I think it just makes sense for him. I agree with Gene in chat that I think Martinez over with New York City FC is a shot as well. I mean, we saw Chicago give up 2 to New England. I'm hoping that maybe they can get a clean sheet. I know it seems like sometimes Chicago puts it together. Sometimes New York City kind of has some disconnect. Like a week or 2 ago that happened where he didn't get anything. But definitely a name to throw on there with who you're considering. But I really hope you had at least 2 of the double game weeks. I think Surridge would be on there as well against FC Cincinnati. He's just been on great form, so I could see how that would be a name with hope as a bench play that you would have there. That you could get activated. I don't know if I would go with the Cincy forward. I mean, you've got Brenner and Dinke now as options, but Brenner, of course, just came in, hasn't scored. Dinke's had a little bit of frustrations with some of the consistency there. I think he's gotten enough goals where he's been worth the acquisition, and with hope chemistry builds. But I just don't think any of them have been consistent enough. But for me, I would really be looking at LAFC and San Diego as those 2 options for your forwards. Because with hope, you only have one that you would have to fill in. The Messi thing, I think these other double game week players, if Messi is back and available, they're going to score more points. I would question if he does play, even if he does get back. It seems like they've been trying to keep him rested. And while they've not been able to secure a spot in the playoffs just yet, I don't think any of us are expecting that they won't be in the playoffs. I mean, I'll go to to the standings real quick, just to double check everything with that. I mean, they're sixth place right now, so they're above the line that they need to make the playoffs, and they're just 4 points out of getting into top four. So I mean, I think we all expect Miami to make it, and they're likely just kind of going to play them enough to get them in, but try to save back some of that to really make the run in MLS Cup. So that's what I look at there. We're going to skip the captain spot because, I mean, you just should have captained a double game week player. For me, it was heel.
So.
For me, it was
Same.
heel. So there's nobody else. If you didn't captain a double game week player because of some life got in the way, you couldn't get it all done. Just captain one of your single game week guys who's Ojeda. Captain Ojeda. Like, get Ojeda, captain Ojeda, and just roll the dice. Like, that's the only thing that I would say for that. But yeah, I went with heel. And so I think a lot of us did. I think got good enough points there. But yeah, we're just going to kind of skip over the captain part. So
I was on Zinkernagel at first, and then I was disappointed because I saw he scored and he was on like a 1. I was like, well, but give it time. Just got to give it time sometimes.
Yeah, he had 11. What did he get? No, he didn't get 11. What did he get this last race? He got 7. So yeah, a couple more points right there, but not a bad performance for him. I could see him doing well next round as well. So a lot of hope right there. All right, well, that's what we have for the show, talking about single game week players with hope. If you needed that advice, you have some ideas for how you can manage your team. Maybe it's just already consistent with what you were going to do, or it's gotten those little gray cells going to start playing. Ashley, Gavin, did you guys enjoy this little kind of experiment of just focusing, splitting up this double game week?
Yeah, I hate this structure for fantasy. Like, I would honestly rather be forced to choose from only the 6 games or whatever and have that be around than have it bleed over. Does that make sense? Like, I just don't understand that structure from a fantasy perspective. And more importantly, no one is asking for that opinion of mine. So, well, I guess technically we just did, but no one who makes decisions is. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful to have these conversations because I think there's definitely going to be a good amount of people who either intentionally or unintentionally left some spots in their team for the singles. But yeah, I just wish that this, more than 7-day format didn't exist. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, and when Reid, you reached out, like, just trying to look at the rest of the season, I was just trying to get my head around, sort of like Ashley was saying, like, the schedule looks so crazy right now. So how is fantasy sort of fitting all this into? And there's like so many random double game weeks coming up and all this. So this really at least helped me organize and get my thoughts on, for how the rest of the season is going to play out. So I think it's helpful. Sure. It's helpful to talk strategies, like, do you go full double game week? What matchups are there? And every double game week is different, right? Like, there could just be 2 teams with a double. We've got a few more this round, and it depends on, like, what are the teams that are playing on the double. Is it worth picking them up? And, like, as I said, these are kind of those random teams that could go crazy. So I just went full double game week. But a lot of times it could just be dud teams that were really not looking for anyone. So we do look at a lot of singles. So I think these conversations are good to have for sure.
Yeah, they're great. And then we're going to have Matt Pollard joining us soon on the show to have some more chat and strategy with us. And so I think it's the 29th that he'll be joining us. So that'll be a fun episode right there. But yeah, so I hope everyone is having a productive double game week so far. Let's wrap everything up with our plugs. Ashley.
Just always plug in the Discord. I think especially with confusing rounds like this and international play, it's even better to hop on that community and just chat fantasy.
Gavin.
Yeah, as Reid said, I'm on all the socials, MLS Fantasy Picks, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it, TikTok. Feel free to give me a follow. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, echo that, the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord. Head over to MLSFantasyBoss.com for the articles. Probably going to be light this week because of the single game week, double game week weirdness that we have. But do be sure to check out that. Had some great content this year, so check that out while we have the last few games. But yeah, the Discord, the community, and it's just such fun. It's gone by so fast. But check out the resources. They are invaluable. So we hope you all enjoyed the show tonight with this little strange quirk that we did to it. And as always, good luck.